Interesting, right? Normally on Sundays, I make a mental note, might write it down in reference to what we're going to talk about the week, right? Like, what are the big topics? Hey, like, I want to hit it. So, just to let you know, like, during the summer days, I'm already prepping for football season. People don't realize how much it takes to go through and do this every single day during football season. But on Sundays, I normally think about what it is that we're going to do throughout the week and some big points that I might want to hit along the week. Sunday, I got to admit, I did not really have a lot of topics going into this week. And with that being said, Jim Schlossnagle has given us a lot of content because now this all affects LSU baseball. Fans worried earlier in the week that Jay Johnson might be going to Texas, even though the same kid who said Jay Johnson was entertaining Texas is also the same kid that said and is reporting Chase Laviolette to LSU, which let's hope so. Let's hope so. Pump the brakes just a tad because the kid's already making a visit this weekend, I hear, and it's not going to be in Baton Rouge. We'll see if plans change. Nevertheless, Jim Schlossnagle gave us a lot of news, but today has got to take the cake for some. Jim Schlossnagle doing what he did was bad enough that I thought it would live for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month during this summer because there was nothing to do. But no, today has got to be the day that everything has gone haywire in reference to sports. Because with the 55th overall pick, the Los Angeles Lakers selected Bronny James. We don't talk basketball on this show, especially not NBA. And a lot of you don't want to listen and talk about the NBA. I get all of that. That's why we don't talk about it. But you know what's interesting, man? I've seen a lot of people since Bronny James is going to the same team that his dad is, everybody losing their mind. Ha, ha, ha. And I said this earlier, too. I kind of thought it was a little funny. I'm not going to lie. Bronny James as a teammate sleeping with his mom. Ha, 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 ha. It's a good tweet. It's a good saying, I guess. But I've seen a lot of people attacking this. And, it's funny because I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're probably right. You know what I mean? Like, you're probably right. You're probably right in the sense that privilege is a big thing for some, but people being mad over this, I do think of like the New York Yankees and the Steinbrenners, and I'm always hiring his kids and his family. There's a guy that's going to be speaking later tonight with orange hair or blonde hair, whatever it is, who hired all of his kids to run all of his businesses. But I'm glad that the presidential debate, quite honestly, is at 8, not at 7, so we could go live with no real interruptions. And I appreciate them going at 8. I really do, because I got a job to do, and it's not fair that you would have to miss one of them, and you would have to go back and listen to the presidential debate because you'd be here. I would want the same exact thing for me and my son. Just being honest. I would want the same exact thing for me and my son. I know that it's privilege. I know that Bronny James should not have been selected in the second round, but I'm going to tell you, there's been a lot worse players that have been taken in the second round of the NBA draft, worse than Bronny James. I mean, I get it. I know people hate it. I just, like if we build AYS into something big, which I hope that we do, but if we build it into something big here, I wouldn't mind my son taking it over one day or my daughter taking it over one day. Who knows? This could be the start of something big. Nevertheless, we are live. We have lots to discuss. We got to talk some football here tonight. And unless some breaking news comes our way, baseball is going to be on the shelf for tonight. Doesn't mean at the end of the show I'm not going to get to some stuff, but you're going to have to wait because we got some football we need to get to. Going to go on a Rufino's rants here. Listen, I how do I want to say this? I know that no LSU fan has forgotten the Matt House era. I know that you have it. I haven't. I do think that we're misremembering some things. So tonight, right here on this handy dandy notebook, we are going to go through how bad things were and some things that weren't on LSU's defense. Blake, there's something good. I wouldn't call it good. I would call it moderate. Actually, I'd call it a little bit above average. A little bit above average. Can Blake Baker build off of one unit that did have success last year? We'll get into that. Also, we continue on our path. So we're breaking down all of LSU's opponents. Like I told you, it's going to be lining up for fall camp, right? So as soon as we get through these game predictions, fall camp is going to be here. We're going to do one every Thursday. Tonight we land on Arkansas. And tonight's little title, I thought it was catchy, is this a trap game? Blake, Sam Pittman, and Arkansas stink. But hold on. Excuse me. I do think that it's an interesting game. And ironically, that game stays pretty tight no matter who's playing, when they're playing, how good the teams are on either side included. I think that Arkansas has the biggest gap of what their season could be, and as far as wins and losses, I can see them being above 6-6. I can see them being well below 6-6. Their schedule's brutal. We'll also talk about that here tonight. Is Sam Pittman even still coaching by the time LSU plays there? And then is Bobby Petrino the interim head coach? And if he is the interim head coach, does he go down the stretch of Arkansas being pretty decent, starting around LSU, to where the Arkansas Razorback faithful want to rehire him? We'll see, man. We'll see. Storylines galore in this one. I think that one's going to be pretty fun. EA Sports comes out with their offense and defensive ratings, and yet here goes my generation flipping a gasket. I did flip the gasket on the loudest stadiums, but I told you that the thing that I will defend the most in reference to LSU will be what happens at Death Valley, because I think people just don't realize what happens there. But nevertheless, the ratings, it benefited LSU on, I kind of got to be honest, both sides of the football. I kind of figured they'd be a top 10 offense, the rating. The defensive rating, though, what if EA Sports is right and we're all wrong? What if it really was scheme? And if Blake Baker does fix this defense and we figure some things out, do we owe an apology to EA Sports? I don't know. Like I've said, I think LSU has talent, and they got a lot of talent, really. The problem that I have is that I think there's too many question marks. I'll go down a rabbit hole. I don't want to do that. Hal Jubin, with the first comment of the night that we read, he says, screw the presidential debate. Hell yes. Hell yes. I got to be honest. I'm going to be doing the show, and we're going to be doing stuff after it. So I highly doubt, I care. I do care who the president of the country is, but I'm not going to tell you my thoughts. David Woodard says, is LeBronny James even talented enough to play in the NBA? I don't know that. I really don't. He said, I heard other news sources say that he wasn't. I'm not sure. Guys, I used to love NBA basketball, or NBA. Love the NBA. Probably about a decade ago. And was kind of watching it religiously. I don't know what turned me off from it. I don't know why I don't watch it the way that I used to. I don't know. I'm just so far out of the NBA that I'm just kind of like, I'll watch the playoffs. I mean, yeah. All right. A couple more, then we'll get rolling. TJ says, let's go. Listening from Kiln, Mississippi. Did you know that the number one drink in Mississippi was tied at first, Dr. Pepper and Coca-Cola? I saw on Facebook today. Maybe Facebook's lying to me. I sometimes go and look. Facebook says, hey, this one, this Coke is or Coke is drunk by the most people in this state. And I go and look, it's like Pepsi. Which, by the way, I got to be honest. I don't know the last time that I had Pepsi. What in the comments? Let me ask you the most important question of the night that I will ask during this entire show. And there's a lot that I'm going to ask. When is the last time that you had a bottle or fountain drink of Pepsi? It's been so long that I've had a Pepsi. So long. Don't drink it. Brian Turner says yesterday. Man, I can't remember. I cannot remember the last time that I had some Pepsi. Pierce Lee says, I haven't had a carbonated drink since 05. Are you trying to quote Step Brothers there, Pierce? I haven't had a carb since 08. I will tell you, man. I do appreciate some of y'all's compliments in reference to the weight loss. I do appreciate that. Yeah, 40 pounds down. I was thinking about Pepsi. I was like, man, I wouldn't mind having a Pepsi, but I can't do that, man. Cannot do that. Can't do it. If I'm going to cheat, I'm not going to cheat on with some Pepsi. I think my thing would be ice cream. I had some gelato this weekend on Saturday, a small cup of gelato. Fantastic. My sister-in-law made it. Had to try it. Sorry. Couldn't do it. Couldn't hold off. All right. Let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those groups. If you're on Facebook, share to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe, we greatly appreciate you doing that. We got lots of we need to get to. We do that next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
We're back. Don't expect me on social media tonight. During the break, I'll go look at Twitter, make sure that we're just, as we start the show, I'm not missing anything. I got to admit, it's already starting, the political debate stuff. I'm out. I am so out. Unless something breaking happens, I'm not going to be on there. See ya. I'm not feeling my mind and my heart and the week that I've had, that great week that I've had, I'm not feeling it with this shit. I'm just telling you. All right. Let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it now. Andrew Paul's up Martin, though. I saw this and I wanted to get to it. He said, I took a sip of Peeps flavored Pepsi last year. Tasted awful. What is Peeps flavored Pepsi? Does Peeps have flavors? Wait a minute. Peeps have flavors? Man, I'm so out. I'm so out of it. So out of it. But Paul's up can tell me. All right. We got to get to something very quickly because I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, but look, it is starting very, very much getting close to football season. And I know that today, when the EA Sports rankings came out and LSU was, 84, like a top 20 defense in the country, is what EA Sports had put out. It had a debate going on social media, which was great because tonight I got to go through something that I wanted to get through to the last couple of weeks, that being, let's go back and look at some good and very bad things with this defense. Because I do think that there is something that Blake Baker can build off of, right? That like there is 100% something that LSU did defensively that could be better on the edge that he can build off of. I also have continued to see your takes too, and I've been wanting to address it, but we're in the heart of baseball season. That being, oh, well, Blake, we have this coach. Oh, well, Blake, we got this coach back. Pick whichever one you want to. I'm not applying this to anybody. How bad was the coaching last year? How bad was the personnel? So even though I do believe that you have some areas and units that will get better, you guys, we've been doing this song and dance way too long, where I come out here during the summer and say, listen, please explain to me how you believe that just because you have a whole defensive staff turnover that things get better. That's not, guys, do you not remember Ed Orgeron? That was literally all of our debate about them defensively. I had a little bit more high hopes on Max Johnson. I don't think Max played bad the year that he started. I mean, was he great? No. Do I think he was average? I thought he was about average, given all the things that were around him. Now, I will remind you of what Max did accomplish and how good he did look at times at Texas A&M when he came in when Connor Weigman got hurt. But I keep hearing it too much of, man, Bo Davis is going to get this unit ready. Man, Blake Baker is going to get this unit ready. Let's run through some things. One big area that you got to get off the field, though, is on third down. And that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time tonight, because I could make the argument that your personnel did really good through 2 downs, but it was just that last down that they were getting eaten alive. if you stop that, does it show that your personnel is actually pretty talented? So it's a tug and pull here of what we are going to see from this LSU defense. We'll break it all down here tonight as well. Let's start with this. I do think that there is an area that Blake Baker can completely work off with in this defense. I think that not only my hunch, but something that we talked about with the defensive line and edge guys, but something that I think a lot of you agreed with. Guys, last year's LSU defense was 105th in the country in total defense. And not only that, they didn't even get any better in the red zone. They actually got worse in the red zone. They were 109th. Overall, bad defense like that we are not used to seeing here. But there were a couple areas that you were average in. And some would say maybe a little bit above average. That's something that we have not necessarily looked at. Last year, LSU was 42nd in the country at sack percentage. They were also, ironically, 42nd in the country in total team sacks. So what does that mean? What it means to me is that, wait, because of all of the chaos that was surrounded by the secondary and by the interior of your defensive line, scheme, all of it, did we miss that this unit actually wasn't great, but wasn't as bad as everything else was? You know, I go to passing yards allowed, was 115th in the country, the worst in LSU's history, by the way, since I think it was, wasn't it, got stats reference that had started in 1991. So maybe there is something where LSU was worse defensively. It was the worst total passing yards allowed that we had ever given up at LSU. Rushing defense. Overall, you were 85th in the interior. So in between the gaps, between the guard and the center, in the interior, you were 112th in the country in rushing yards allowed. So I don't think that you did anything great. I think you did one thing above average. But does that benefit Blake Baker as a DC more than anything? Look, Blake is a guy that last year, or at least the last 2 years that we saw him at Missouri, he was very pressure heavy. How pressure heavy? Well, he was second in the SEC in pressure rate. He was second in the SEC last year in blitzes called. Also, Missouri was top 10 in sacks a season ago. So you have a unit along with the edges that, and the edge coach or the defensive line coach that coaches the DNs, the outside backers, if you will. He brings over Kevin Peoples. I'm starting to have a question is, hey, man, Blake Baker knew that there was an area that he really shined in the 2 years that he was at Missouri. And the best area that he shined in, the coach that was responsible for that, he brought to LSU and Kevin Peoples. It's ironic in a sense because the best thing that LSU did defensively last year was get after the passer. It was literally the best thing that they did. Now, what does that mean? And how creative can Blake Baker be? Now, we've talked about the edges before. We'll talk about them here again tonight. There are a unit that I think that has the most promise when it comes to the talent that they have. You know, what do you do with a guy like Gabe Rutherford? What do you do with a guy like Braden Swinson? Does Harold Perkins on third down move out to the edge? Do you scheme something that he's playing in the slot and comes off the edge? Who knows what Blake has in store for you in 2024? But I do think that if there is a unit for me that I do think is the most intriguing, it's got to be that one. I don't know if it's the unit that takes the biggest next step. I do think that that's linebacker. They, by far, of any unit on this team, has to be the most intriguing. You know, I tell you this every offseason, that when the doors open to football camp, where's the first place that I'm going? Guys, I think I'm going to edge. Because if those guys can seal an edge, if they can rush the passer, be good in the run game, guys, I don't know that in a really bad scheme in Matt House last year, with really bad personnel all around him, if you're going to sit here and tell me that the edge pressures and the edge guys didn't get enough pressure, I don't know if that's not true. Statistics can be a wild stat, so I went and looked at sack rate by number. What does that mean? How many sacks did you have a game? How many did Blake Baker have a game? And LSU was about a half a sack off a game, which compiles very quickly. You're talking about 6 sacks that you add to your schedule. I don't know if that's the unit that Blake doesn't utilize early in the season. I don't know if he does unique and special things with those guys because, like he did at Missouri a year ago, that really set the tempo when they were able to use the edge guys to get insignificant pressure on the quarterback and get in their face. I'm very intrigued by Harold Perkins, which we'll talk about next week, but they're going to have to be big. The edge guys are going to have to be big based off of one reason. Guys, you have been horrific on third down, and this is not something that's just a Brian Kelly thing the last 2 years. It's not just a Matt House thing that has been bad the last 2 years. I think that since 2019, when you won the national title, this place, this school, this team has had issues with getting off the field on third down. It is the most critical down for you defensively. Now, LSU, the worst thing that they did last year, even if it's an opinion, which I do think getting off on the field on third down was the worst thing that LSU did defensively a year ago. But if you're a stats junkie, you look at everything that they did defensively. The worst thing that they did was not get off the field on third down. And you were third and 5 more. I talked about this a little last night. You were in 3rd and 5 plus more than anybody in the country last year. Those edge pieces are going to have to come up big. And I do think that the linebacking unit, the edge unit, is going to be more productive this season than they were at all a year ago. You know, everywhere Kevin Peoples has gone, you got to be careful with this because you don't want to say that, like, hey, he's just going to do it at LSU. He's always going into year 2 of a place, had somebody that he was coaching that had double-digit sacks. Everywhere he's gone in the first 2 years. Is it this year? Is it next year? I don't know. But to say that you have a guy that could literally help you do the biggest thing that you need to do on third down, that's getting off the field, which was the worst thing that you did, I don't know how much that doesn't benefit you. Now, I do think that third down a lot last year was scheme. I do. I think a lot of it was personnel too. And I think that if you had to ask me what was worse, I would have to say scheme because of one reason. If LSU defensively is going to be as good as they have been at first and second down, how much does Blake Baker add into helping you get off the field? I don't know that answer. I know that we look at personnel. I know that I've had to worry about them at defensive tackle. I still do. At corner, I still do. At safety, I still do. There are big-time worries along this defense of can this personnel perform? But one thing that I feel very confident in, that one unit that will progress, I do think that it's safety, but it's got to be number one edge and edge pressure. Because you have a guy that's not only done it in the SEC before at Arkansas, who's a team that we're talking about tonight. Guys, if any of these human beings have double-digit sacks, that means that you're off the field more on third down, And quite honestly, that can be the area that takes you to the next step. Hey, LSU, because of personnel, looks like a 9-3 team. Okay. If you're able to get the best out of that unit, it could win you a game. It's the best thing that you did last year and all the chaos that surrounded you. But guys, if you have another issue or another year where you're losing games because of the one reason being Tennessee goes 11 of 15 on third down, or Florida State, like you did in week 1, what was it, 10 of 17 on third down? 8 of those third down conversions came in the second half. Oh, by the way, Alabama was 8 for 8 or 7 for 7, whatever it was. I don't have the stats in front of me, but they were like, I'm pretty confident of saying Alabama was like 7 for 7 on third down in the first half. You only got off the field like 3 times. By the way, I think they were 15 and 18 on third down. Guys, that means that you can beat Bama if you can get off the field. It would have been a lot like 22. We've talked a lot about personnel. You do have an issue in the interior of the defensive tackles. Can Don McKinley stand up? All question marks we go into with August. Do you have an issue on the boundary? We got to get there and find out. But guys, you literally, could it get worse? Yes. Could this defense ultimately get worse? Yes, it could. Things could be worse. I could envision things being worse. I don't know how much worse it can be on third down. Guys, you were almost dead last. Vanderbilt was the only team that you were ahead of, only by a slot. You were the 13th ranked SEC team. By the way, now that, it's pretty much July, you would have ranked 15th out of 16 teams in your own conference on third down. By the way, ironically, Matt House never in any high-profile game had the best SEC third down efficiency rating in any week. There wasn't one. Never. Blake Baker had a unit the last 2 years in Missouri that was top 10 in sacks. I don't know how y'all feel, okay? And it's easy to say that coaches can fix things. Let me go to the opposite side of that coin because I've seen this too much too. The opposite side of that coin is I don't know if just saying that a coach, and I'm going to completely contradict myself here, but stay with me. I don't know if we can say that a coach just being here changes things. I don't think Bo Davis being here as an example because of his personnel, okay, I don't know what we're going to expect out of that unit. I have no clue. But I do have 2 coaches in the last 2 years that have gotten a unit inside the top 10 in Blake Baker and Kevin Peoples that are now here. I don't know, man. I think it's easy. If that unit, let's go to the worst case scenario on the edge. Worst case scenario is that the guys can rush the passer, but they're getting bullied in the running game like Harold Perkins did. We don't know. We don't know if any of these ends can stand being there for 4 quarters. I look, Savion Jones has got to have a money year, man. Braden Swenson's got to have a money year. Deshaun Womack's got to show that, like, hey, man, I am a dude. So does Harold Perkins. How much fire does it put under some of these guys that, like, hey, man, this is the year that I make money? Because the truth will be, man, it's like the Bo Pelini thing and the Bo Pelini conversation that you and I had. Now, I will remind you, this is probably going to be a good topic. The conversation that you and I had about Bo Pelini when he was at LSU was that it was his defense. He was the reason that it sucked. And I said, guys, this isn't on Bo. Took a lot of backlash from it. I was like, man, this is more than Bo. We go to the next season. The defense still stinks, mainly because Orgeron had been the one that was orchestrating everything. We remember that story. We also know that a lot of it was personnel too. Wasn't all of it, but a lot of it was personnel. I will remind you of something. Durante Jones, in the middle of the season, completely revamped a defense on the fly with the same personnel when Orgeron got fired. They were sending the heat. They were coming after dudes. The defense was completely different. Kind of gave you hope. Ironically, that year in 2021, really what LSU at the end of the year there wasn't that bad. They had some bad games. They weren't great, but they got a lot better. Guys, I think you could see some of that here. I 100% could see a Durante Jones type of situation. Like, man, that guy wasn't making that type of play last year. I do think that they take a step forward. It's just not enough, or is it going to be enough? It's a question. All right. Jamal says USC, Ole Miss, A&M, Bama will all be losses. So we've gone through USC and Ole Miss. I could see you Ole Miss. I'm not giving you A&M. I could see Bama. Let me say it like this. I could see USC before I could see A&M. I don't think anybody can say that they know what A&M is. Did they bring in a lot of talent? Yeah, they did. Mike Elko's a 15-6 coach in the ACC at Duke. You don't know much about him as a head coach either. Colin Klein's never been in the SEC. By the way, I'm just going to be real with you. Colin Klein kind of got put in a locker during their spring game. They did not look good at all. That offense was anemic. Just saying, man. Just saying. Blaine says, are you going to SEC Media Days in Dallas? I am not. I'm not. Chili says, ask Blake, does LSU get back in with Kyron LeBlanc baseball related? I'm not sure about that. I have no knowledge on that situation. Brian Turner says, side note, it's an insult how much of a bandwagon Colorado has right now. EA has them rated higher than USC. Yeah. Are we 100% sure that might not be accurate? Probably isn't accurate. I could see that though, man. I mean, I don't know if USC offensively. I don't think you can can we make a full judgment about that? Maybe we could, man. Maybe we could. I don't know. Nick on Facebook says Kelly had that 1 year when he went 3-8 at Notre Dame. That scares me. I mean, is that the exception or is that the rule? I don't think you're going 4-8. Guys, that means you're winless. You're winless at South Carolina. You're winless at against Arkansas, who we talk about here tonight. You're winless against Vanderbilt. Or you beat Vanderbilt would be your only SEC win. I can't. No, ain't no way. No. There is no way I see them going 4-8. None. Could I see them I don't know if I could see them being 6-6. I think the outright doomsday floor would be 7-5. I could see things being worse if Garrett Nussmeier did go down. I could see that. I could see that. You're just going to have to lean on your O-line, man. And Garrett's going to have to protect himself more than ever. Guys, Garrett, let me say this. Thumbs up, thumbs down in the comments. Garrett Nussmeier has to protect himself more than what Jaden Daniels did, because when Jaden came here and got nicked up, you felt good about Nussmeier's backup. I did not feel that Nussmeier was ready. to be a full-time starter. I've never talked about him being a bad player on this show. But you felt better about it because the kid's a gunslinger. He's going to throw you in a lot of picks, but he's going to throw a lot of touchdowns too. I just really, really, really don't know what you have in Ricky Collins and AJ Swan. I really do not. I mean, actually, you know what? You kind of do know what you have in AJ Swan. Ironically, I mean, you know, it can't be worse than him at Vanderbilt. It won't be worse than him at what he did at Vanderbilt. And that's what you would have to live with. Or whatever Ricky Collins gives you. But that, I mean, you're talking about doomsday scenario. I think Garrett's got to protect himself more than Jaden did because you had that backup there. All right. EA Sports rating. I'll just say this. I'm glad it benefited LSU. I'm glad it benefited LSU. I ain't got no problems with it. But the reality, though, is that might not be true. You have a lot of talent. I just don't know if you can put it all together. If I'm Blake Baker, though, man, you know what's crazy? I brought up Durante Jones. Blake Baker was on that staff. Blake Baker was on the staff when everything changed here. Look, if you don't go into games sending the outright heat, then guys, you can't play passive with this personnel. You'll get absolutely abused. And you know what? Did we see it with Matt House? Yes. You know who else we saw it with? Blake Baker in the spring game. I don't think Blake Baker showed one thing. But the God's honest truth, man, I don't think Blake's going to be running things vastly different than what he was doing at Missouri. I don't think that he will. Teams are going to be going through all that Missouri film. That's what they'll scheme. That's what USC is going to scheme. They're not watching no damn spring game. They're not going to do it. And then USC is going to adjust on the fly. You know what? You're doing the same thing against USC with D'Anton Lynn. You got to send the heat, man. You cannot be passive. If you're passive, you die. If you don't adapt, you die. All right. Let me get to a quick break. We come back, break down Arkansas, and if we have any comments at the end, we'll get to them. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
You know what I thought? Hold on. Excuse me. You know what I thought was very interesting today? So I saw this thing from CBS Sports, and it was an article about an NFL draft and NFL scouts saying that, like, some guys put some lists together. Who are the top 12 under the radar players going into next year's NFL draft? And, I clicked on it because I was very intrigued. And what I was actually really trying to do was to see if there was any LSU guys on there. You never know. Like, does somebody think that, like, Jordan Gilbert is an under-the-radar guy that nobody's talking about, or Greg Penn? It's crazy because the second name on this list is a very familiar name to LSU fans. Very familiar. Do y'all remember the defensive tackle, Joe Evans? Joe Evans is considered right now by CBS Sports on an NFL scout, like survey that they did, that the UTSA, former LSU defensive tackle that had 12 starts at LSU, is a sleeper. He's a dog, the NFL scout said. He's a dog, said the UTSA head coach that told CBS Sports. His size, strength, and knowledge of the game is unmatched. Pro Football Focus had him number 3 as the best run defender in the country a year ago. I could go on a rant on this and say, when kids or players, shouldn't call them kids anymore, but when players are at your university and you want to talk about development and you don't want to watch the kid develop and bloom right in front of your eyes and say, hey, well, this 4-star, this 5-star kid has not come to pass. He has not come into a situation where he can be able to live up to the billing that I built up for him and everybody else built up for him. But meanwhile, you have a guy that we basically wanted out of the portal and is actually still in college football, and Joe Evans. Do you think that you would have needed Joe Evans to be a part of this defensive line? How does he still have eligibility? I didn't even check and see if he had eligibility. Is he really on the roster at UTSA? There's no way, but he is. All right. Spectrum Wellcare says, Blake, you're discounting the fact that LSU will run a lot more this year to control the clock. No. True. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if that's how they do it. Who knows? But I do think that's a good point. I hope that they do that to some extent. I know Carter hates it, but I completely disagree with him. We continue on our path of going down LSU's schedule and talking about each opponent. Now, I've told you that we're going to do one of these every Thursday until we get to the start of football camp. We might add another one about the group of 5 teams you play. I don't think you want to listen to something like that. I don't really want to talk about something like that and break that down. But we've gone through 5 weeks, and through those 5 weeks, we've talked about 3 very challenging games that LSU has in the first half, or about the first half of their season. Look, I think Ole Miss is the most talented team that you play on paper. I think USC is a team that, look, man, you can say whatever you want about them, but you and them are very much identical in a lot of ways. Then you're not alike in so many regards. And then we talked about going to South Carolina at 11 a.m. Man, does this team travel on the road in the morning? Well, like, how does that work? Do you already have a loss from the West Coast USC? Who knows? It's a game that could be a trap game for you, even though I think you're going to win that one. It is what it is. Then you got UCLA at home. I don't think that they got remotely close to the same amount of talent that you do, and I think that you might actually not do bad against them. But tonight we get to Arkansas. And I think that Arkansas is one of the more interesting teams to look at down LSU's schedule. Guys, I could easily see a path where Sam Pittman does not or is not the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks by the time Arkansas versus LSU happens. Could fully see it. We'll get to their schedule in a minute. But what happens if Sam Pittman isn't there and Bobby Petrino is the interim head coach? Does it change anything? Does he have the personnel? Are you going up against that offense? Has that game historically been close for whatever reason? Guys, it was close last year, and they were a 4-8 team. They were a 4-8 team last year, guys, and we were battling at the end to beat Arkansas at home. Because that game was closer than anything, and it means more to them, I feel like, than it does in this fan base. Arkansas does bring in a lot of transfers, and they lost a lot. So the question will become, what are they? How does Bobby Petrino make this offense better? Does he make it better? But they go and get Boise State quarterback transfer Taylon Green. And guys at Boise State, big body kid, 6'6", 230 plus, can run really well, did run really well at Boise State, but it's not a really good, consistent passer. Can Bobby Petrino, who's been known for having really good offenses, can he mold this kid? Can he make this kid a lot better? Last year at Boise, he was 59% completion percentage, and through in last 2 years, threw for 3,900 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. You're replacing KJ Jefferson. This kid struggled throwing the football against Boise, but he can run it. The kid is athletic. What can Bobby Petrino do with them? I titled this episode tonight, is this a rivalry trap game? Because rivalry games can't be trap games. And I don't think that anybody around Baton Rouge would believe that, look, man, for whatever reason, no matter what, this game is historically close. This game is historically close. Unless Chad Morris is the head coach, then it probably won't be. They bring in Utah transfer running back Rashad DeBenin, and I just don't know if Arkansas is going to be a team that can match up with you. I just think when I look at them all across the board, quarterback, wide receiver, which, by the way, I mean, wide receiver might not be that bad. The Tesla kid returns. Andrew Armstrong, who had 764 yards last year, returns. They're not bad at receiver. They will probably have career days against you, but they're not bad there. But I don't think that they're good along their offensive line. I don't think that Sam Pittman has recruited that area well enough, even though he's an offensive line guy. I don't know if he's recruited that area good enough. I know they bring in transfers. I know that they have a new O-line coach. And the complaint for them offensively last year was, oh, this is Cody Kennedy's fault. No, it wasn't Cody Kennedy's fault. When you have a head coach that specializes in one position group, 9 times out of 10, you got to lump him in there as well. They had injuries all across the board. It wasn't on them. I just don't know I don't know how they're going to be offensively. Now, offensively was where they struggled a year ago. And yes, some defensively they gave up some things, but they weren't that bad defensively. They were average, below average, but around average. They were not bad. You should know. You played them a year ago. Now, did they give up some touchdowns late? Yes. Did KJ not live up to some of the hype that I think people thought about him going into the year? I'm old enough to remember that KJ Jefferson was labeled a Heisman contender in the beginning of last season. So was Joe Milton. I just don't know if this is going to work for Sam Pittman this season. I look at their schedule and look at the brutality in the beginning of it through the first part of the season. They have UAPB win, but man, they go 2 Oklahoma State. They got UAB at home. They got Auburn on the road, A&M, Tennessee, and LSU all at home. Guys, I could see a very real scenario where they lose to Oklahoma State, where they lose to Auburn, where they lose to A&M, where they lose to Tennessee. And if they're 2-4 or 2-3, excuse me. No, they'd be 2-4. If they're 2-4 going into the LSU game, is Sam Pittman still their head coach? And do things get weird in a game with Bobby Petrino back as their head man? I could see a scenario where that game is, or maybe even a little bit before, but that game might be the time that you're going through a new interim head coach. I don't think Sam Pittman's making it through the year. I have no sourcing on it. I haven't talked to anybody. It's just an opinion. I don't think that they can beat 4 of the 6 teams on their early schedule. I know that A&M game is always a toss-up. I just can't see it. There's nothing that Arkansas has that makes me believe that they can have a productive season, because I just don't know if I can have the faith in Sam Pittman that I would want to. I hate it for Sam. I hate it that an offensive line guy gets a chance to be a head coach and he fumbles the bag. I hate that for him. Only a couple years ago, they were not that bad of a football team, but they have a really good running back that they have to replace. You have no idea what this quarterback in Taylor Green's going to be. Oh, and by the way, defensively, they lose one of their leading tacklers who's now at Ole Miss, and Chris Paul Jr. They replace Nudie McLaughlin. They're replacing a lot defensively. Now, they got some solid pieces. When I look at Landon Jackson as an example, he is a really good player. And unfortunately for Landon, he's got to deal with Will Campbell or Emory Jones the entire game, which kind of pretty much happened to him last year. Really productive in every other game besides one, the LSU one. Guys, I don't know if there's any unit that they're better than you in. And the issue I'm having with this is, even though they're not better than you, more talented than you, better coached than you, maybe, and I hate to say this to Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton, the only unit that that you just got to be and give the nod to would be Bobby Petrino at OC. Everything else is a plus for you. And the game will probably still come down to being within 7 points to 10 points. It's how it always works. I don't know if it's science, if it's rivalry, that game being on the road. I don't know what it is. What I do know is that no matter what happens, I don't know if I can see a scenario where you blow them out. Last year, they ran the ball on you when you couldn't get off the field on third down. The offensive line was really banged up. They started 2 brand new tackles, and it didn't matter to them because they kept just tick, 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 tick. Ran the ball right down your throat, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and they kept completing small things, kept getting first downs. You couldn't stop them. Remember that wasn't it a 7-play drive in the red zone in the first quarter? Because of a penalty, they had 7 plays, and I think they had to kick a field goal. Nothing they do legitimately worries me. Jaden Johnson, their safety returns. He had 62 tackles, 3 pass breakups, and an interception last season. But in their secondary, man, they got 2 big question marks of guys that are inexperienced. A kid that couldn't play at Georgia goes over there. Another guy that couldn't cut it at another school. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but none of the guys that they're adding in have played or have any experience at all. At least when you went and got a free safety, Jordan Gilbert's got more than enough experience in this conference and in this league. I mean, C.J. Daniels was the best receiver for the highest-ranked G5 team in the country. I'm just not 1,000% sold that Arkansas can be good. Look, I think that there's a strong possibility that Sam Pittman doesn't make it through the season. Not only that, I don't know if he's the head coach by the time they play LSU. Now, we've been going through this entire series of teams at LSU and going down the schedule. Tonight, we just ironically hit Arkansas when we talked about Ole Miss last week. But I can't piece anything together. And the sad thing is, there should be an area that I could. Maybe this Taylor Green, it's his coming out party. Maybe they change things up. Maybe it's because there's a new head coach on the sideline. I think the writing's on the wall, man. The writing's on the wall. And I hate it for Arkansas fans, man. They really want a winner. They want to be good in basketball. They're passionate, dude. They are very passionate. They're just not going to have a fun football season. They're not. And I know that they're trying to put, bows on shit, but it's not going to work for them, man. It's not going to work for them. There's not a team in the SEC that I fear less at the current moment outside of Vandy on your schedule, or potentially that could ever be on your schedule if you got to a SEC championship or whatever. No team, like they are the least team that scares me outside of Vandy. They have so many things to prove. And if they do, it will be a masterclass in how they developed in one offseason. It really will. It 100% will be a testament to how Sam Pittman and his staff was able to develop. Guys, if they go 8-4, my God. If they go 7-5, my God. I can't see it. I don't know where their wins come. Because in the first part of their season, guys, I see 4 losses, and then they play LSU, which could be 5. They could be 2-5 almost halfway through or just past halfway through the year. There's no way Sammy P's making it through that. No way that he's making it through it. All right. Brandon Reese says, if Arkansas fires Sam Pittman, that coaching search will be interesting. It very much will be. Very much will be. Rick says 11 a.m. Eastern time at South Carolina is 10 a.m. for our players. It's not 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's noon Eastern. Where I say 11 because it's the time that we play it at. Yeah. Rick says Joseph Evans, 6'3", 340 is a beast. Pride of Haynesville, Louisiana. Yeah. How crazy is it, man? How crazy is it that an article comes out of the top 12 sleepers in the NFL draft, and it being at a position that you need most in Joseph Evans? It's insane, dude. It's insane. All right. We'll see y'all on Monday unless some big news happens. I'm staying off of social media tonight. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.